In a quiet village surrounded by green hills and sparkling rivers, there lived a man named Elias. He had always dreamed of sharing his love for cooking with others, so he opened a small restaurant at the edge of the forest where the scent of fresh pine and wildflowers filled the air. The restaurant was made of old wood and stone, with large windows that let the sunlight pour in. Every morning, Elias would walk through the woods to gather fresh herbs, mushrooms, and vegetables. His dishes were simple but full of flavor: hearty soups, fresh bread, and wild berry pies that melted in your mouth. The villagers loved visiting Elias's place. Travelers passing through would often hear about the little restaurant hidden among the trees and make special trips just to taste his cooking. Children played in the meadow nearby while their parents enjoyed warm meals and peaceful conversations. Elias believed that food was not just about feeding the body, but also about bringing people together. In his small restaurant, surrounded by nature, everyone felt like family, and even though many years passed, the warmth of Elias's cooking and the beauty of his little restaurant remained in the hearts of all who visited. One autumn evening, as golden leaves danced in the wind, Elias noticed a young woman standing outside his restaurant. She looked tired and lost. Without hesitation, he invited her inside, offering a seat by the warm fire and a bowl of his famous mushroom soup. Her name was Lila, an artist traveling from village to village, searching for inspiration. As she ate, she told Elias about her journey, how she painted the landscapes she visited, but had been struggling to find a place that truly spoke to her heart. Elias smiled and said, "Sometimes inspiration isn't something you find. Sometimes it's a feeling that finds you." Lila decided to stay in the village for a few days. Each morning she would sit by the window of the little restaurant, sketching the hills, the woods, and the happy faces of the villagers. The restaurant became her muse. In return, Lila painted a beautiful mural on the restaurant's largest wall, a breathtaking scene of the village, the forest, and the people gathered around tables full of laughter and food. It captured the spirit of Elias's dream perfectly. Word spread about the mural and the magic of the little restaurant. More visitors came, not just for the food, but to experience the warmth and beauty that seemed to live in the walls. Years later, even after Elias grew older and passed the restaurant to a new generation, the mural remained, a reminder of how one small place, filled with kindness and good food, could change the lives of so many. And in the heart of the woods, the little restaurant continued to welcome everyone with open arms and the smell of fresh bread in the air. One winter morning, a heavy snowstorm swept through the village. Roads were buried and people stayed inside their homes, unable to travel. The little restaurant, which was usually filled with laughter and warmth, now sat quiet and empty. Elias's successor, a kind young woman named Mira, worried that the restaurant would not survive the harsh winter. Supplies were low, and fewer customers meant no income to buy more. But Mira remembered Elias's words. In hard times, the spirit of the place is what keeps it alive. She decided to host a community night. She lit the fireplace, cooked everything she could find: thick stews, sweet cakes, hot tea, and sent messages to all the villagers. Even through the heavy snow, one by one, people arrived, wrapped in thick coats and scarves, bringing whatever food they had at home: cheese, honey, preserved fruits, and bread. The little restaurant was alive again, filled with music, laughter, and the delicious smell of shared meals. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years sat together, telling stories by candlelight. Children played games near the fire, and old songs were sung until late into the night. The storm raged outside, but inside the little restaurant it was warm, bright, and full of life, just like Elias had always dreamed. From that winter onward, the villagers made it a tradition. Every year during the first snowstorm, they gathered at the little restaurant to share food, stories, and friendship, proving that even the coldest nights could be filled with warmth. And so the spirit of Elias, his kindness, his dream of bringing people together, lived on forever in the heart of the village, carried by every laugh, every song, and every shared meal under the old wooden roof. Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled between green hills, the long winter finally ended. Snow melted, and tiny green shoots pushed through the soil. It was the first day of spring. Lila, a curious little girl with bright eyes and a love for flowers, woke up to the sound of birds singing. She rushed outside and found the whole village beginning to bloom. Cherry trees wore soft pink blossoms, and butterflies danced in the air. As Lila walked through the meadow, she spotted something sparkling in the grass. It was a tiny golden key. She looked around and noticed a small wooden door hidden at the base of a tree. With a racing heart, she used the key, and the door slowly creaked open. Inside was a magical garden. Flowers of every color bloomed in perfect harmony, and animals spoke kindly to one another. A wise old rabbit greeted Lila and said, "Welcome to the Garden of Spring. Only those with a pure heart can enter." Lila spent the whole day playing with talking squirrels, riding on butterflies, and learning the secret songs of flowers. As the sun began to set, the rabbit handed her a seed. "Plant this in your village. It will bring the joy of spring to everyone." Lila ran home and planted the seed in the middle of the village. By morning, a beautiful tree had grown, and from that day on, every spring brought extra magic to the village, thanks to Lila's adventure and the golden key. The magical tree in the center of the village became the heart of spring. Its petals changed colors with the wind, and its sweet scent filled the air. People from nearby towns came to see it, bringing joy and music with them. Lila became known as the girl who brought spring. But she never told anyone about the golden key or the secret garden. She kept the memory in her heart, visiting the tree every morning to see what new wonders it would bring. One day, as she sat under the tree, a soft breeze carried a whisper, "Spring is more than flowers. It is the kindness you share." Lila smiled, understanding the true magic. She began helping her neighbors plant gardens, paint their homes, and care for animals. Every year, when spring returned, the village celebrated with a festival under the magical tree. There was dancing, singing, and stories told around a glowing fire. And in the center of it all was Lila, now grown, sharing the gift of spring with every new child who believed in magic. And so the village bloomed, not just with flowers, but with love, friendship, and the spirit of spring that would never fade. Years passed, and the village continued to grow more beautiful each spring. The magical tree stood tall and proud, its blossoms shimmering like stars. Lila, now an old woman with silver hair and warm eyes, still visited the tree every morning. One spring morning, as she sat beneath its branches, she saw a little boy staring up at the blossoms in wonder. His name was Amir. He had just moved to the village and didn't know the stories yet. Lila smiled and called him over. "Do you like the tree?" she asked. Amir nodded. "It feels happy." Lila chuckled softly. "That's because it remembers love and joy and all the good things people bring." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the golden key. Amir's eyes widened. "This key once opened a door to a secret garden," Lila said. "Would you like to find it?" Amir nodded eagerly. Lila handed him the key. "The garden only opens for those who believe in kindness, wonder, and the magic of spring." That night, Amir followed a trail of glowing petals to the old tree at the edge of the village, the same one where Lila once found the door. The door was there again, waiting. He used the key and it opened. Inside, the Garden of Spring was alive once more, blooming brighter than ever. From that day on, a new adventure began, one that would carry the spirit of spring to future generations, with Amir as its new guardian. And so, the magic of spring lived on, passed from one heart to another, forever blooming. It was a cold winter morning in the small village of Pine Hill. Snow covered the rooftops like a thick white blanket, and icicles hung from the trees, sparkling in the early sunlight. Everyone in the village was busy getting ready for the winter festival, which was only 2 days away. Ella, a curious 10-year-old girl, loved winter more than any other season. She enjoyed building snowmen, drinking hot cocoa, and skating on the frozen lake. But this winter, something was different. While walking through the forest near her house, she noticed tiny footprints in the snow, too small to be from a rabbit or fox. She followed the trail deeper into the woods and discovered a little wooden door at the base of an old tree. To her surprise, the door opened, and inside was a cozy little room with glowing lanterns, soft chairs, and shelves full of books and winter treats. A tiny creature with bright eyes and a warm scarf stepped out. "Hello," it said cheerfully. "I'm Nibbit, the winter elf. I help make snowflakes and sprinkle them over your village at night." Ella was amazed. She and Nibbit became friends, and he showed her how winter magic worked. She even helped him make a special snowflake that would float over the village during the winter festival. On the night of the festival, as people gathered in the town square, a giant, glowing snowflake appeared in the sky. Everyone cheered in wonder, but only Ella knew the secret behind the magical surprise. From that day on, every winter brought a new adventure for Ella and her tiny friend, Nibbit. After the glowing snowflake lit up the village sky, Ella looked around and saw the smiles on everyone's faces. The mayor called it the most magical winter festival ever, and the villagers couldn't stop talking about it. Ella felt proud, but she kept Nibbit's secret safe. The next morning, she ran to the forest, excited to see her elf friend again. But when she reached the old tree, the tiny wooden door was gone. She searched all around, calling Nibbit's name, but there was no answer. Ella felt a little sad. Was it all just a dream? Days passed, and winter slowly started to fade. The snow began to melt, and the first signs of spring peeked through. But Ella never forgot her adventure. She kept looking near the tree, hoping Nibbit would return. Then, one evening, just as the sun was setting and a soft snow began to fall again, Ella found a small note tucked into her windowsill. It was written in tiny curly letters. "Dear Ella, thank you for helping make this winter so special. I must return to the north now, but I'll be back next winter with even more magic. Your friend, Nibbit the Winter Elf." Ella smiled and hugged the note close to her heart. She knew that every winter from now on would be a time of wonder, joy, and a little bit of magic. And so every year, when the first snowflake fell, Ella would look to the trees, waiting for her friend to return. A year had passed, and winter had returned to Pine Hill. Snow blanketed the ground once again, and the villagers prepared for another winter festival. But Ella was waiting for something more, or rather someone. Every day, she checked the old tree in the forest, hoping to find Nibbit. One morning, after a fresh snowfall, she noticed something new. A glowing snowflake hanging from a low branch. Ella touched it gently, and in a flash of soft blue light, the tiny wooden door reappeared. It creaked open slowly. "Nibbit," she whispered with joy, came the cheerful little elf, bundled in a fluffy red coat. "Ella, I've missed you," he said, smiling wide. "I have something very special to show you this year." He led Ella deeper into the forest, to a hidden clearing she had never seen before. In the middle was a frozen fountain made of sparkling ice. "This is the Fountain of Winter Wishes," Nibbit explained. "It only appears once every 100 years. If you make a wish from the heart, it might come true." Ella thought hard. She didn't wish for toys or sweets. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered, "I wish for winter to always bring joy and kindness to everyone." The fountain glowed with silver light, and for a moment, snowflakes danced in the air like stars. Nibbit clapped his tiny hands. "That was a beautiful wish, Ella." That year, something magical happened in Pine Hill. People shared more, helped each other more, and every home seemed warmer, not just from the fire, but from the kindness inside. As the winter festival came to an end, Ella and Nibbit sat together under the stars. "Next year?" she asked. "Always," he smiled. And from then on, each winter brought not just snow and cold, but also a little magic, a little love, and a very special friendship that warmed the whole village. Far out in the middle of the ocean, a group of small, lush islands called the Coral Isles sat quietly under the blue sky. These islands were home to a peaceful village of fishermen who lived simple lives, depending on the sea for food and trade. One morning, the sky turned dark much earlier than usual. Thick gray clouds rolled in from the horizon, and the wind began to howl like a wild animal. The village elder, Tala, stood on the shore and watched the sky with concern. "It's coming," she said, "a great storm." By noon, the rain began. It wasn't just a light drizzle. It poured down in heavy sheets, turning the sandy paths into rivers and the fields into swamps. Thunder cracked like a drum and lightning danced above the palm trees. The villagers rushed to secure their homes, tying down boats and gathering food. The sea, usually calm and inviting, grew angry. Waves crashed against the shores, stealing sand and pulling at the roots of the coconut trees. Boats swayed wildly in the harbor, and fishermen prayed that their anchors would hold. The storm lasted for 2 full days. The rain never stopped, and the wind never rested. But the villagers were strong and united. They helped one another, shared food and warmth, and waited patiently for the skies to clear. On the 3rd morning, the sun finally broke through the clouds. The rain stopped, and the sea calmed. The damage was great. Trees had fallen, and some houses were flooded, but no lives were lost. Together, the villagers began to rebuild, thankful for the strength of their community. And from that day on, they called the storm the Great Rain, remembering how even in the darkest moments, unity could bring light. As the sun rose higher on that 3rd morning, golden light touched every corner of the Coral Isles. The village sparkled with drops of rain, still clinging to the leaves, and the air was fresh with the scent of wet earth and salt. Children ran barefoot through the puddles, laughing despite the mess. Some of the elders began to repair the roofs with palm leaves, while the younger adults cleared branches and gathered what had survived the storm. Even the animals, goats, chickens, and birds slowly came out from their hiding places. Tala, the village elder, called everyone to the meeting hut. "We faced the storm together," she said. "Now we must rebuild together." A boy named Kavi raised his hand. "Can we make the village even stronger? So next time we're more ready?" Nodded. From that day on, the villagers didn't just rebuild, they improved. They built stronger huts with better supports. They dug deeper trenches to carry away rainwater. They planted extra gardens on higher ground in case of floods. But they didn't stop there. The storm had reminded them of how fragile and precious their island life was. So they also began planting more trees to protect the soil, teaching the children how to fish without harming the sea, and making stronger ties with nearby islands for support during hard times. Years passed, and the great rain became a story the elders told to every new generation. Not as a tale of fear, but as a reminder of courage, unity, and the power of nature. And high on a hill above the village, the people built a small stone tower. It had a bell, and whenever storms approached, the bell would ring, not to scare, but to prepare. The Coral Isles never forgot the storm, and because of it, they became wiser, stronger, and more united than ever before. Years turned into decades, and the Coral Isles continued to thrive. The memory of the great rain remained a part of the village's spirit, passed down through songs, carvings, and the bell that still rang during every storm. One day, a group of travelers arrived on a sailboat, guided by stars and stories they had heard from other islands. They came seeking knowledge, curious about how the Coral Islanders had built such a strong and resilient community in the middle of the sea. The villagers welcomed them warmly, offering fresh coconuts and grilled fish. They shared their story, not just of the storm, but of what came after. The rebuilding, the unity, the lessons from the land and sea. The travelers listened in awe. One of them, a young woman named Mira, asked, "How did you stay so hopeful during the storm?" Tala, now very old but still wise, smiled gently and answered, "Because we were never alone. When the rain falls, it falls on all of us, but so does the sunlight afterward." Inspired, the travelers promised to share the story across other islands, spreading the message of courage and community. And so the legend of the Great Rain traveled far beyond the Coral Isles, reminding people everywhere that storms may come, but with unity, hope, and care for each other, any storm can be weathered. And on the Coral Isles, as always, the waves whispered and the wind sang, carrying the spirit of the islanders across the endless blue sea. It was the first day of summer vacation, and 12-year-old Sam could hardly wait to visit the new swimming pool that had just opened in town. It was called the Crystal Lagoon, and people said it was the biggest and cleanest pool in the whole city. Sam arrived early, towel in hand and goggles around his neck. The sun was bright, the water sparkled, and the smell of sunscreen was everywhere. Kids were laughing, splashing, and diving into the water. Everything seemed perfect until something strange happened. While swimming near the deep end, Sam noticed a silver object at the bottom of the pool. Curious, he dove down and picked it up. It was an old, rusty key. Where did this come from? Sam wondered. He showed it to the lifeguard, but the lifeguard just shrugged. Strange. This pool was built just a month ago. That key must have been dropped by someone. But Sam wasn't convinced. That night, he returned to the pool after hours. He had to know more. With a flashlight and the key in his pocket, Sam climbed the fence and crept toward the pool. As he looked around, he noticed a small, locked door behind the equipment shed. His heart pounding, Sam took out the key and tried it in the lock. Click! The door opened. Inside was a hidden room with old photographs, pool designs, and a journal. The journal told the story of the original pool that had stood there 50 years ago, a pool that was mysteriously shut down after someone vanished in it. Sam realized that the Crystal Lagoon was built on top of the old one. The next morning, Sam handed the journal to the pool manager. The story made it to the local news, and soon everyone was talking about the mystery of the silent pool. Thanks to Sam's curiosity, the town learned about a forgotten history and a mystery that was never truly solved. But Sam didn't mind. For him, it was the best summer ever. After the news spread about the hidden journal and the old pool, the town decided to investigate further. Experts came in to examine the area under the Crystal Lagoon. What they found was shocking. Beneath the current pool was a sealed chamber made of stone covered in strange symbols. Sam was invited to watch as workers carefully opened the chamber. Inside, they found old pool tiles, broken diving boards, and even a locker room that looked untouched by time. But what surprised everyone most was a name scratched into the wall. Eleanor, 1975. That same afternoon, an elderly woman came forward. Her name was Margaret, and she said Eleanor was her sister, who had gone missing 50 years ago. She was swimming here that summer and never came home, Margaret said with tears in her eyes. People searched, but they never found her. The discovery reopened the case. As investigators studied the chamber, they found something else. A silver locket hidden inside a crack in the wall. Inside the locket was a tiny photo of Elena and Margaret as children. The mystery grew deeper. But then something beautiful happened. As the town rebuilt part of the pool area, they decided to create a memorial garden nearby, dedicated to Elena and others whose stories were forgotten. Sam was asked to speak at the opening. Standing in front of the crowd, Sam said, "Sometimes the past speaks to us in quiet ways. I'm glad I listened." Everyone clapped and the town felt a little closer, a little stronger. The Crystal Lagoon reopened with a new rule painted by the entrance. Swim with care, listen to history, and never stop being curious. And Sam? He spent the rest of his summer swimming, exploring, and wondering what other secrets the world might be hiding just beneath the surface. Summer was ending, but Sam couldn't stop thinking about the hidden chamber and the girl named Elena. Even though the mystery brought answers, there was still one question that kept him awake at night. How did Elena disappear without a trace? One afternoon, as Sam was helping the pool staff clean up, he noticed something odd near the filter system, an old rusted pipe hidden behind some bushes. It didn't seem to be connected to the new pool equipment. Curious, he followed it. The pipe led him to a small locked metal hatch just outside the pool fence. Sam asked the manager for permission to open it. With a few tools and some effort, the hatch creaked open. A cold, musty smell filled the air. Inside was a narrow tunnel, dark and quiet. Flashlight in hand, Sam crawled through the tunnel. It led to a forgotten room underground. On one of the walls was a large, faded painting of a young girl swimming surrounded by water lilies. Beneath the painting, he found something incredible. A waterproof diary wrapped in cloth and tucked into a stone shelf. The name on the cover read, Elena M. Sam opened the diary. The pages told her story, how she loved swimming and exploring, how she had discovered strange symbols in the pool, and how one day she followed the sound of whispers in the water. The last entry ended with, "If anyone finds this, don't be afraid. The pool hides more than water. It hides stories. Let them be told." Sam returned the diary to Margaret, Elena's sister. Tears ran down her cheeks as she held it close. For the first time in 50 years, she had something real from Elena. The town added Elena's diary to the pool's museum room so her voice could be heard by all. And as for Sam, he became known as the boy who listened. Every summer, he gave tours of the pool's history, telling kids about the brave girl named Elena and the secret tunnel that helped solve a decades-old mystery. He never found out exactly where the whispers came from, but he knew one thing for sure. Some stories are waiting in silence, just hoping someone will dive deep enough to find them. There was once a fisherman named Elias who lived in a small village by the sea. From a young age, Elias had shown an extraordinary talent for fishing. While others struggled to catch a few fish, Elias would return with boats full of the freshest, biggest catches. The villagers often watched in awe as Elias prepared his tiny wooden boat each morning. He knew the sea better than anyone, its moods, its hidden dangers, and its secret treasures. It was said that he could smell the direction of the fish and hear the whisper of the waves guiding him. One day, a terrible storm hit the village. The sea roared like a wild beast and no one dared to sail. But the village was running low on food and someone needed to brave the waters. Without hesitation, Elias volunteered. He set out alone, his boat rocking fiercely under the angry sky. Hours passed and the villagers waited, fearing the worst. Then, just as the sun broke through the clouds, they spotted a small figure returning from the horizon. Elias arrived exhausted but smiling, his boat overflowing with fish. The villagers cheered and wept with relief. Thanks to Elias, the village was saved from hunger. From that day on, they called him the Master of the Waves, and his name was spoken with respect and gratitude for generations. After the great storm, Elias became a legend in the village. Young boys and girls would gather around him every evening, begging him to tell stories of the sea. He spoke of giant whales that danced under the moonlight, hidden caves filled with sparkling fish, and islands that no one had ever seen. But Elias always reminded them, the sea is not just about adventure and treasure. It demands respect. It tests your courage, your patience, and your heart. Years went by and Elias grew older. His hands became rougher, his back bent from years of battling the tides, yet his spirit remained strong. One morning, as the sun painted the sky gold, Elias made a decision. He called the villagers together and said, "It is time for me to teach others what I know." He chose a group of young villagers, teaching them the secret signs of the waves, the language of the winds, and the art of patience. Under his guidance, they became skilled fishermen, ready to face the sea with both bravery and wisdom. Elias spent his final years watching proudly as the new generation sailed into the horizon, carrying his spirit with them. And whenever the winds whispered across the village, people said it was Elias himself still guiding them from beyond. The sea had found its truest master, and the village would never forget him. One evening, long after Elias had passed away, the sea grew unusually calm. The villagers gathered at the shore, sensing something strange in the air. The water shimmered with a silver light under the full moon, and a soft melody floated over the waves, a song none of them had ever heard before. Suddenly, a figure appeared far out at sea. It was a boat, small and wooden, just like Elias's old one. Standing tall at the bow was a man who looked very much like Elias, his white hair glowing like the moon. The villagers watched in silence as the boat sailed closer, but just before reaching the shore, it vanished into mist, leaving behind a single shining fish on the sand, a fish made entirely of pearl and light. From that night on, the sea became even kinder to the village. The storms grew softer, the fish became more plentiful, and sailors always found their way home, even in the darkest nights. The villagers knew then Elias had become part of the sea itself, its eternal guardian, watching over them forever. And so they built a small statue by the shore, a fisherman with a net made of stars, to honor the master of the waves, whose spirit still lived within the heart of the ocean. Once upon a time, deep in the heart of an ancient land, there was a mysterious forest known as the Whispering Forest. It was named so because the trees seemed to whisper secrets to each other when the wind blew through their leaves. One sunny morning, a curious boy named Leo decided to explore the forest. He had always heard stories from his grandmother about magical creatures and hidden treasures hidden among the trees. Armed with only a backpack, a map, and his courage, Leo stepped into the forest. At first, everything seemed normal. Birds chirped, sunlight danced through the leaves, and squirrels jumped from branch to branch. But the deeper Leo walked, the stranger things became. He heard soft voices, not human, but gentle and kind. The trees swayed even without wind, and glowing mushrooms lit the path beneath his feet. Suddenly, a small creature appeared. It was a fox with golden eyes and a glowing tail. "You've heard the forest call," the fox said. "Only those with a pure heart can hear the whispers." Leo followed the fox to a hidden clearing where a giant tree stood, taller than any other. Its bark was silver and its leaves sparkled like stars. The tree spoke in a deep voice. "Brave child, you have entered our sacred space. What do you seek?" "I want to learn the secrets of the forest," Leo replied honestly. The tree smiled. "Then listen with your heart, not just your ears." From that day on, Leo visited the forest often. He learned to understand the animals, protect the plants, and live in harmony with nature. The forest had chosen him as its guardian, and in return, he promised to keep its magic alive for generations to come. As the years passed, Leo grew older, but he never stopped visiting the Whispering Forest. The animals knew him by name, and the trees bent slightly whenever he walked by, as if greeting an old friend. One day, while walking through the forest, Leo noticed something strange. The birds were quiet, the air felt heavy, and the glowing mushrooms were dim. The golden-eyed fox appeared again, but this time he looked worried. "The forest is in danger," the fox said. "Humans from the nearby town are cutting trees and building roads. The balance is breaking." Leo's heart sank. He couldn't let the forest be destroyed. He ran back to the town and spoke to the people. He told them about the magic of the forest, the talking tree, and the creatures that lived there. At first, no one believed him. They laughed and called it a child's story. But Leo didn't give up. He gathered drawings, sounds from the forest, and even brought some glowing mushrooms to show the truth. Slowly, people began to listen. The mayor agreed to visit the forest with Leo. When they entered the sacred clearing and saw the silver tree, their hearts changed. The tree spoke to them too in a voice both kind and powerful. "If you protect us, we will protect you," it said. From that day forward, the forest became a protected place. People from all around the world came to see the wonders of the Whispering Forest, not to harm it, but to learn from it. Leo became a wise forest guide, teaching children how to respect nature. And every time the wind blew through the trees, a soft whisper could be heard, "Thank you, guardian." And so the forest lived on, whispering, glowing, and full of magic for all who chose to believe. Once upon a time, in the vast sky above, there lived a bright and powerful star called the sun. Every day, the sun rose high to light up the earth, giving warmth, energy, and life to all the creatures below. But even though the sun was admired by everyone, it felt very lonely. It watched the people play, the animals run, and the flowers bloom, but it could never join them. It had to stay far away, high in the sky, shining alone. One day, a little cloud named Cora floated by. "Why do you look so sad, sun?" asked Cora. "I shine all day," said the sun, "but no one can come near me. I have no friends." Cora smiled gently. "That's not true. You help everyone. Without you, the trees wouldn't grow, the rivers would freeze, and we clouds would be lost in the dark. You are our hero." The sun was quiet for a moment. Then it smiled a warm golden smile that made the whole sky glow. From that day on, the sun didn't feel lonely anymore. It realized that even though it couldn't play on Earth, its light touched every life and made the world a better place. And so the sun continued to rise every morning, proud and happy to shine. As the days went by, the sun and Cora the cloud became great friends. Cora would visit the sun every morning, drifting across the sky and sharing stories from the earth below. One day, Cora said, "Sun, would you like to hear about the little village by the river?" "Oh yes," said the sun, shining brighter with excitement. Cora told the sun how the children in the village ran outside to play when the sun rose, how the farmers worked joyfully in their fields, and how the flowers always turned their faces toward the warm light. The sun was touched. "I never knew I made such a difference," it said softly. "You do," said Cora, "more than you know." That evening, as the sun began to set, it painted the sky in shades of orange, pink, and purple, a special gift for the people, animals, and plants it had watched over all day. The children pointed to the sky and smiled. "Look, the sun is saying goodbye." And though the sun disappeared behind the mountains, it felt something new. Love. Not the kind you can touch, but the kind that fills the air when you know you matter. Every morning after that, the sun rose with joy in its heart, knowing it had friends below and above, on earth and in the sky. And high above the world, the sun was no longer lonely. One morning, the sun noticed that Cora didn't appear in the sky. The sun waited all day, looking across the wide sky for any sign of the little cloud. Finally, just before sunset, a small gray figure floated slowly into view. It was Cora, but she looked tired and heavy with rain. "Cora," the sun called gently. "Are you okay?" Cora sighed. "I had to visit a dry forest far away. The trees were thirsty and the ground was cracked. I gave them all the rain I had." The sun thought for a moment. "That's so kind of you," it said. "You helped bring life back to the earth." But I'm just one cloud," said Cora. "There's still so much to do." The sun's rays sparkled with an idea. "What if we work together? I'll warm the oceans to make more clouds like you, then you can rest and the new clouds will help water the earth." Cora's eyes lit up. "That's a wonderful plan." And so they began a new mission together. The sun gently warmed the oceans and lakes, turning water into soft white clouds. Cora became a guide, teaching the new clouds where to go. Some brought rain to dry lands, others gave shade to hot deserts. The earth bloomed with color, rivers flowed, trees stretched their branches, and animals danced in the cool rain. People looked to the sky and said, "The sun and the clouds are working together." Cora was no longer just a little cloud, and the sun was no longer just a lonely star. They were a team, guardians of the sky and protectors of the earth. And every sunset, as the sky turned golden and calm, the sun and Cora would smile, knowing that their friendship had made the world a brighter kind of place. High above the sleeping earth, the moon watched over the world like a quiet guardian. Every night it rose slowly into the sky, spreading silver light across the oceans, forests, and cities below. But few people knew that the moon had a secret. Long ago, the moon was not alone. It had a friend, a small star named Luma. Luma danced around the moon every night, telling it stories from distant galaxies and shining brightly to keep it company. The moon was never lonely with Luma by its side. But one night, Luma disappeared. She had been called away to light up a new part of the universe. The moon was heartbroken. For centuries, it glowed quietly, remembering the laughter and joy they had shared. One night, a curious child named Emma looked up at the sky. She loved the moon and always talked to it before bed. "Dear moon," she whispered, "why do you always look so sad?" The moon heard her. No one had spoken so kindly in a very long time. It decided to share its light with Emma, making her dreams bright and full of stars. Emma smiled in her sleep, and the moon felt a little warmer. From that night on, the moon had a new purpose, not just to light the sky, but to inspire dreamers like Emma all around the world. And maybe, just maybe one day, Luma would return. Many years passed. Emma grew older, but she never stopped talking to the moon. Every night she would share her dreams, her hopes, and even her worries. The moon listened carefully, shining brighter for her than for anyone else. One special evening, as Emma sat by her window, she noticed something new in the sky, a tiny, bright light dancing near the moon. It twirled and sparkled like it was happy to be home. The moon felt it too. A familiar warmth spread across the night sky. It was Luma. After lighting many galaxies and guiding lost travelers across the stars, she had returned to see her old friend. "I missed you," the moon said, glowing with joy. "And I missed you," Luma replied, "but I see you've been busy." The moon looked down at Earth. "Yes, I found a new friend. Her name is Emma." Luma peeked into Emma's dreams and saw all the stories, stars, and adventures she had imagined with the moon. "She's special," Luma said. "Let's shine for her together." From that night on, the moon and Luma lit up the sky, side by side, two friends reunited, watching over the world and inspiring dreamers everywhere. And Emma, she became a writer. Every story she told was full of stardust, moonlight, and the magic of friendship. As Emma grew into a young woman, her love for the stars never faded. She often sat outside at night, notebook in hand, writing tales inspired by the moon and Luma. People loved her stories. They said her words felt like dreams, soft, glowing, and full of wonder. One night, as Emma lay on the grass beneath the sky, she whispered, "Moon, Luma, I wish I could visit you." The moon and Luma heard her wish, and because their bond with Emma was strong, something magical happened. A soft beam of silver light wrapped around Emma, lifting her gently into the sky. She wasn't afraid. Higher and higher she rose, past the clouds, past the stars, until she stood on the moon itself. The ground sparkled like powdered silver, and Luma danced joyfully around her. "Welcome, Emma," the moon said in a deep, kind voice. "You've always belonged among the stars." Emma smiled, tears in her eyes. "Is this real?" "As real as your dreams," Luma whispered. The moon showed her hidden craters full of glowing crystals, and Luma took her flying across stardust trails. They told her the ancient stories of the skies, the secrets of constellations, the songs of comets, and the whispers of old galaxies. Emma listened, learned, and wrote everything down. After what felt like a single night, but was really much longer, Emma gently returned to Earth. She woke up in her garden, notebook still in hand, but now its pages were filled with shining silver ink. She became a famous storyteller, known around the world as the girl who wrote stories from the moon. And every time she looked up, she saw the moon and Luma glowing just a little brighter, watching over her. Proud of the dreamer who once wished to visit the stars and did. Far away, nestled between green hills and winding rivers, lay a small village called Elora. It was a quiet place where everyone knew each other's names and life moved with the rhythm of nature. Every Saturday morning, something special happened. The village square transformed into a colorful vegetable market. Long before the sun rose, farmers from nearby fields arrived with wooden carts filled with fresh produce. The air was crisp and smelled of earth and dew. Tomatoes as red as rubies, carrots straight from the soil, and cabbages with leaves like emerald fans were laid out on cloth-covered tables. Old Mrs. Anya, the village's best gardener, always had the first stall. She sold her famous herbs and leafy greens, and her voice rang out cheerfully as she welcomed her regular customers. Children ran between the stalls with sticky hands from eating fresh mango slices, while the village elder, Grandpa Theo, sat near the fountain telling stories to anyone who would listen. For the villagers, the market wasn't just a place to buy vegetables. It was where friendships were renewed, recipes exchanged, and news passed from one family to another. Even travelers from nearby towns came to see the market, drawn by its charm and the sweet scent of ripe fruits. By noon, the square would be nearly empty, carts rolling away with laughter still echoing in the air. The market would sleep for another week, leaving the village with full baskets and fuller hearts. As the weeks passed, the village market began to grow. New stalls appeared, selling honey, homemade cheese, and even handmade baskets woven from river reeds. The village of Elora, though small, was becoming known in distant places for its warm smiles and fresh produce. One day, a stranger arrived. He was a tall man with a worn hat and a curious notebook. His name was Liam, a traveler and writer who had heard of Elora's famous market. He walked slowly through the square, sketching the stalls, talking to the vendors, and tasting everything he could. "Why do you write so much?" little Nora asked him as he sat near Grandpa Theo. "I write stories about special places," Liam replied, smiling. And this market is more than just a place to buy food. It's a piece of magic. The villagers were shy at first, but Liam's kind eyes and gentle words made them feel proud. He stayed for a month, learning their recipes, helping the farmers pick beans, and even helping Mrs. Anya arrange her herbs just right. When he finally left, he left behind a gift, a small book filled with stories and drawings of Elora and its market. On the first page, he wrote, "To the heart of a village that beats every Saturday morning." Years later, that book brought more visitors, more friends, and even more colours to the market. Yet nothing changed the spirit of Elora. The laughter still echoed, the vegetables stayed fresh. The market remained what it had always been, a celebration of life, shared under the sun in a village that never forgot the magic of coming together. Many seasons passed, and the village of Elora continued to bloom like the gardens around it. The market became a tradition so beloved that even the children who once ran between the stalls grew up to open their own. Nora, the curious girl who had once asked Liam about his notebook, had grown into a clever young woman. She took over her grandmother's herb stall when Mrs. Anya grew too old to work every Saturday. Nora didn't just sell herbs, she taught others how to grow them, how to mix teas, and how to heal with the power of plants. One summer, a heavy storm rolled through Elora. Rain poured for days and the market square flooded. For the first time in memory, the Saturday market didn't open. The villagers stayed indoors, their baskets empty and spirits low. But Nora had an idea. She went door to door, gathering help. "The market is more than a place," she told everyone. "It can live anywhere." So, with everyone working together, the market moved indoors, into the old community barn at the edge of the village. They swept the floors, hung lanterns, and brought in long wooden tables. That Saturday, under a roof dripping with rainwater, the market came back to life. People laughed louder, talked longer, and shared more than they ever had before. It was as if the storm had reminded them how special their tradition was. From then on, rain or shine, the market never stopped. And every year, on the day of the great storm, the villagers celebrated the Heart of Elora festival, a day of stories, music, and remembering how they saved something precious by standing together. And so, in that distant village wrapped in hills and kindness, the vegetable market remained a symbol of life, love, and the beauty of simple things shared in community. In a small town nestled between green hills and winding rivers, there lived a boy named Adam who loved soccer more than anything else in the world. Every day after school, Adam would run to the dusty field near his house with a worn-out ball under his arm and a big dream in his heart to one day play for his country. Adam wasn't the strongest or the fastest on his school team, but he had something special: determination. While others gave up when training got hard, Adam kept going. He practiced every evening, rain or shine, perfecting his kicks, improving his speed, and learning how to work with his teammates. One day, his coach announced that a scout from the national youth team would be coming to watch their next game. The whole team was excited, but Adam knew this was his chance to prove himself. For days, he trained harder than ever. Game day arrived. The crowd was loud, the pressure was high, and Adam could feel his heart racing. The match was intense, and both teams were strong. With only 5 minutes left and the score tied, the ball came rolling toward Adam. He looked at the goal, took a deep breath, and kicked with all his strength and skill. The ball soared through the air and landed in the back of the net. Goal. The crowd cheered wildly, and Adam's teammates lifted him up in celebration. The scout took notes with a smile on his face. A week later, Adam received a letter. He had been selected for the national youth team. Adam's dream had just begun. Adam couldn't believe his eyes. He read the letter again and again. "Congratulations, you have been selected to join the national youth soccer team." His hands shook with excitement. He ran to his parents, who hugged him tightly, tears in their eyes. "We're so proud of you," his mother whispered. A few weeks later, Adam traveled to the capital city to join the training camp. The facilities were incredible. Huge fields, professional coaches, and players from all over the country. At first, Adam felt nervous. Everyone seemed bigger, faster, and more experienced. But he remembered what made him special: hard work, discipline, and heart. Day by day, he trained harder than ever. He listened to every word the coach said, stayed after practice to work on his weaknesses, and always helped his teammates. Slowly, he gained their respect and the coach's trust. 1 month later, the team flew to Spain for an international youth tournament. It was Adam's first time on a plane and his first time outside his country. Everything felt new and exciting. In the first match, Adam started on the bench, but when his team fell behind, the coach turned to him and said, "Adam, you're in." Adam took a deep breath and stepped onto the field. He played with everything he had, chasing the ball, defending, passing, and pushing forward. In the final minutes, he made a clever pass that led to the winning goal. The stadium erupted in cheers. His teammates hugged him, and the coach smiled proudly. After the match, a reporter asked him, "How does it feel to be a hero?" Adam answered with a smile, "I'm just getting started." After the tournament in Spain, Adam returned home a local hero. His story was shared in newspapers and on television. Small-town boy helps national team win abroad. But Adam didn't let the fame distract him. He knew this was only the beginning. Soon, professional clubs began to notice him. Scouts from Europe sent invitations to trial camps. After long talks with his family and coach, Adam accepted an offer to train with a well-known club in Germany. He was only 17, and it was the biggest step of his life. Living in a new country was hard. The language was different, the weather colder, and the competition intense. But Adam stayed focused. He trained hard, studied German at night, and watched the senior players to learn from them. Months passed, and Adam earned a place in the club's youth team. Then, one winter night, during a friendly match, the coach gave him his chance to play with the senior team. Adam was nervous, but once the whistle blew, he forgot his fears. He played like he always had, smart, fast, and fearless. He even scored a goal that night. Crowd roared. From that moment, Adam's career took off. He signed his first professional contract. He played in big stadiums. His face appeared on posters. And then a few years later, the call he had dreamed of came. An invitation to join the national team, not the youth team, but the senior team. In his debut match, he wore the number 10 jersey, standing tall as the national anthem played. As he looked into the crowd, he saw a small boy holding a sign that read, "One day, I want to be like Adam." Adam smiled. He remembered the dusty field near his home. He remembered the hard days, the lonely nights, and the goal that changed everything. Now he was not just living his dream, he was inspiring others to chase theirs. In the middle of a busy city filled with tall buildings, noisy cars, and crowded streets, there was a large, peaceful park called Greenwood Park. It was like a secret world hidden in plain sight, a place where time seemed to slow down. Every morning, birds chirped cheerfully from the branches of tall oak trees, and the soft rustle of leaves danced in the breeze. A wide lake in the center of the park reflected the sky like a giant mirror, and ducks glided quietly across the water. Children laughed as they played on swings and slides, and elderly couples walked slowly along flower-lined paths, enjoying the calm atmosphere. People from all parts of the city came to the park. Some came to run or ride their bicycles, while others brought books to read under the shade of the trees. Musicians played soft tunes near the fountain, and artists painted colorful pictures of the natural beauty around them. One day, a little boy named Sammy found a small injured bird near the lake. He gently picked it up and took it to the park's gardener, Mr. Harris, who knew how to care for animals. Together, they made a tiny nest from twigs and cloth. Over the next few weeks, Sammy visited the bird every day until it grew strong enough to fly again. The day the bird flew away, people from the neighborhood gathered to watch. It was a small moment, but it reminded everyone that Greenwood Park was more than just a green space. It was the heart of the city, a place where nature and people came together and where kindness could grow as easily as flowers in spring. After the little bird flew away, Sammy felt both happy and a little sad. He missed visiting it every day, but he was proud to know he helped it heal. Mr. Harris, the kind gardener, smiled and said, "You've given it a second chance, Sammy. That's something special." From that day on, Sammy spent more time in Greenwood Park. He helped Mr. Harris plant flowers, water the trees, and clean up trash left behind by careless visitors. Soon, other children noticed what Sammy was doing and joined him. Every Saturday, they met at the big oak tree near the lake to take care of the park together. They called themselves the Greenwood Helpers. The group grew quickly, parents joined in, and even teenagers who once spent their weekends playing games on their phones now came to paint benches, build birdhouses, and plant new seeds. The mayor of the city heard about the group and visited the park to thank them. She even gave Sammy a medal for his kindness and leadership. As months passed, Greenwood Park changed. It became more colorful and full of life. Butterflies danced in the air, new flowers bloomed every week, and the park echoed with laughter and music. People felt safer and happier there, and many said the park had become the soul of the city. One day, an old man who had lived in the city for 50 years said, "I remember when this park was quiet and lonely. Now it feels alive again. This little boy and his friends gave it a new beginning." And so, Greenwood Park remained not just a place of grass and trees, but a symbol of hope, community, and the power of small acts of kindness to make a big difference. As the years went by, Greenwood Park continued to grow, not just in beauty, but in meaning. Sammy, now a teenager, still visited the park often. He had become a leader in the community, organizing seasonal events, spring planting days, summer music festivals, autumn leaf walks, and even winter snowman contests. People from all neighborhoods came, no matter their age or background. The park belonged to everyone. One winter, a powerful storm hit the city. Trees were knocked down, the lake flooded, and many parts of the park were damaged. The next morning, Sammy stood at the entrance, heartbroken by the destruction. But then something amazing happened. One by one, people began to arrive, carrying rakes, tools, and warm drinks. Without anyone asking, the entire community came together. They cleared fallen branches, fixed the benches, and replanted flowers. Children painted cheerful signs that read, "We will grow again in our park, our home." Within a few weeks, Greenwood Park was restored, more beautiful than ever. A new tree was planted in the center of the park with a plaque that read, "Planted with hope, grown with love, Greenwood Park belongs to us all." Sammy smiled as he looked around at the trees, the people, and the memories they had built together. He knew the park would continue to bring joy for generations to come, because Greenwood Park was more than land and trees. It was friendship, it was care, it was home. Far away in the heart of the endless blue ocean, there was a mysterious island that no map ever showed. Sailors called it the Island of Whispers, for strange voices were said to echo from its shores on stormy nights. One day, a young explorer named Alara set out on a voyage, determined to find this hidden island. She had read old journals, followed ancient star charts, and listened to countless tales from old fishermen, who claimed to have seen the island only in their dreams. After weeks of sailing, her boat was caught in a sudden storm. The winds howled and the sea roared, tossing her tiny vessel like a leaf. Just when she thought all was lost, the storm calmed, and through the morning mist, Alara saw land, lush, green, and untouched by time. She stepped onto the island and was amazed by its beauty. Birds sang songs no one had ever heard. Flowers glowed softly in the shade. In the heart of the island, she found ancient ruins with carvings that seemed to tell stories from a forgotten world. But the whispers were real. At night, soft voices drifted through the air, not threatening, but curious, as if the island itself was alive, watching and welcoming her. She followed the whispers to a cave by the sea, where she discovered a glowing crystal resting on a stone pedestal. As she touched it, a vision filled her mind. The island had once been home to a wise and peaceful people who vanished after sealing their knowledge within the crystal. Alara knew she had to protect the island. She returned to her boat, marked the location secretly, and sailed away, carrying the story in her heart. She never revealed the island's position, but often told the tale of the Island of Whispers, where the past still speaks and the ocean keeps its secrets well. Years passed, and Alara became a renowned explorer, but no discovery ever felt as magical as the Island of Whispers. Though she never revealed its location, she often felt its presence in her dreams, calling to her gently like the tide pulling at the shore. One night, Alara dreamed of the crystal glowing brighter than ever. She saw the island in trouble, its trees wilting, its skies darkening, and the whispers now filled with fear. She awoke with a start, knowing the island needed her. Without hesitation, Alara prepared her old boat, now worn with time, but still strong. She followed the same stars that had guided her years ago. The journey was harder this time, storms raged stronger, and the ocean felt colder. But her heart guided her more surely than any compass. At last, she reached the island, but it had changed. The once bright jungle was darker, and the birds no longer sang. The whispers were louder now, urgent and pleading. Alara hurried to the crystal cave, only to find the crystal cracked and pulsing with dim light. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was made of mist and moonlight, the spirit of the island. It spoke without words, sharing its sorrow. A dark force had awakened beneath the sea, threatening to swallow the island and its memories forever. Alara knelt by the crystal and placed her hand on it once more. This time, the island spoke through her. She felt its power flow into her, not to keep, but to share. The knowledge and magic stored within the island had to be passed on to protect it. With all her strength, Alara called out to the sea, to the winds, and to the sky. Light burst from the cave, spreading across the island like dawn after the longest night. The plants bloomed again, the birds returned, and the whispers turned to songs of joy. Alara had become the guardian of the island. She stayed there from then on, no longer needing to wander. Travelers who pass through that part of the ocean sometimes speak of strange songs in the wind, or a soft voice guiding them away from danger. Few believe those stories. But some say if you're quiet enough and the ocean is still, you can hear her whispers. And if you're lucky, you might even see the island rising like a dream from the mist. Decades passed. Ilara's name became legend, spoken in stories by sailors and adventurers, though few believed she ever truly existed. The Island of Whispers faded again into myth, lost among stars and sea foam, but stories have a way of waiting for the right listener. Far away in a bustling coastal town, a curious girl named Lyra found an old book in her grandfather's attic. Its pages were filled with strange symbols, sketches of glowing flowers, and a faded map marked only with a single name, Ilara. Lyra was no ordinary girl. She heard things others didn't, wind humming in patterns, waves whispering her name. When she touched the book, she felt warmth, as if something long ago was calling her forward. Guided by instinct, Lyra built a small sailboat and set off into the ocean, following the mysterious map. Days turned to weeks. Just as she began to lose hope, a mist rolled in. Through the haze, she saw a shimmer of green, an island rising like a memory from the sea. The Island of Whispers. Unlike Ilara's first visit, the island welcomed Lyra with open arms. Flowers bloomed as she walked by. Birds followed her through the trees. At the heart of the island, she found the same cave, and there, beside the glowing crystal, stood a figure of light. It was Ilara, older, wiser, and glowing with the spirit of the island. "You heard us," Ilara said, her voice like wind in the leaves. "The island chose you as it once chose me. It is time." With a gentle smile, Ilara passed her staff to Lyra. The crystal flared with light, and the island itself seemed to breathe. Ilara's form slowly faded, becoming one with the wind, the sea, the whispers. Lyra had become the new guardian. She stayed, learning the language of trees, the songs of birds, and the power of the ocean's rhythm. She recorded her knowledge in new books, carefully hidden across the world for those who might one day be chosen. And so the cycle continued. Even now, if you listen closely near certain forgotten shores, you might hear a voice in the wind. Some say it's the island calling, some say it's just the sea, but others know the truth. The Island of Whispers is real, and it's waiting for the next voice to hear it. Once upon a time, in a quiet town called Willowville, there was a red sports car named Flash. Flash wasn't just any car. He could talk, think, and dream. His biggest dream was to win the Great Willowville Race, a famous competition that brought together the fastest cars from all over the country. Flash trained every day. He zoomed up and down the winding hills, practiced sharp turns, and made sure his engine purred like a kitten. But there was one problem. His biggest rival, a sleek black car named Shadow, was faster, meaner, and more experienced. On the day of the big race, the whole town gathered to watch. The sun was shining, the track was ready, and the engines were roaring. "Good luck," Shadow said with a smirk. "You'll need it." Flash took a deep breath. "We'll see," he replied. The race began with a loud V-room. Cars sped off the starting line like bullets. Flash stayed focused, remembering every trick he had practiced. Around sharp corners, over hills, and through narrow paths, he gave it everything he had. Shadow stayed ahead most of the race, but on the final turn, he got too confident and slipped on a patch of oil. Flash saw his chance and zoomed ahead with lightning speed. He crossed the finish line just 1 second before Shadow. The crowd went wild. Flash had won the race of a lifetime. From that day on, Flash became a legend in Willowville. Not just because he was fast, but because he never gave up. After winning the Great Willowville Race, Flash became the pride of the town. Everyone cheered for him wherever he went, but Flash didn't let fame change him. He still trained every day and helped other cars in the garage. Flash received a letter. It was a golden envelope with a silver stamp. Inside was an invitation. "You are invited to the International Grand Prix, the toughest race in the world. Only the best cars can compete. Will you accept the challenge?" Flash's engine skipped a beat. This was bigger than anything he had ever dreamed of. Without hesitation, he replied, "Yes." But Flash knew he couldn't do this alone. He asked his old rival, Shadow, to join him as part of his team. "Me? Join you?" Shadow said, surprised. "We're stronger together," Flash replied with a smile. Shadow thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right, let's win this." They trained together for weeks, learning new tricks, building speed, and fixing every little part of their engines. They even brought in their friend Spark, a smart electric car who was great at strategy and planning. Finally, the day of the International Grand Prix arrived. The race was held in a huge city with tall buildings, neon lights, and a track that twisted through tunnels, bridges, and even underwater glass tubes. Flash, Shadow, and Spark lined up with cars from all over the world. Giant trucks, sleek racers, and even flying cars. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1, go. The race was faster and harder than anything they'd faced. At one point, Spark used her energy boost to clear a gap in a broken bridge. Shadow blocked a rival car from pushing Flash off the road. And in the final lap, Flash pushed his engine to the limit, racing like the wind. With teamwork, courage, and heart, they crossed the finish line together. They didn't just win the race, they won the respect of the world. After winning the International Grand Prix, Flash, Shadow, and Spark became heroes. They were invited to a celebration in Turbo City, a shining city filled with tall skyscrapers, smart traffic lights, and futuristic cars. When they arrived, crowds welcomed them with music, lights, and cheers. Everything seemed perfect until night fell. That evening, a mysterious car zoomed through the city, breaking speed limits, knocking over signs, and causing chaos. The car was fast, too fast, and completely silent. The police couldn't catch it. People began calling it Ghost Rider. Mayor Drift called an emergency meeting. Flash, you and your team are the best drivers we know. Can you stop this Ghost Rider before he destroys our city? Flash looked at his friends. We'll do our best. The next day, they started searching. Spark hacked into the city's traffic cameras. Shadow searched the alleys and highways. Flash drove across the city, asking other cars if they'd seen anything strange. Finally, they found a clue. A trail of melted tire marks glowing faintly in the dark. These aren't normal tires, Spark said, and they're powered by illegal plasma fuel. Very dangerous. That night, they set a trap. Spark used a decoy robot car to lure Ghost Rider into the city square, where Flash and Shadow were waiting, hidden. At exactly midnight, the mysterious car appeared, glowing with blue flames and lightning. It raced after the decoy at incredible speed. Flash shouted, "Now!" Shadow jumped out, blocking the road, while Flash sped after Ghost Rider. The chase was wild, through tunnels, over rooftops, and even across a narrow bridge. Finally, Flash managed to corner Ghost Rider near the city's power plant. "Why are you doing this?" Flash asked. Ghost Rider replied in a deep, metallic voice. "I was built for speed, but abandoned, forgotten. I wanted to prove I was the fastest." Flash looked at him and said gently, "You don't have to cause destruction to be great. Race with us and show the world what you can really do." There was a long silence. Then the Ghost Rider's lights dimmed. "Maybe it's time for a new race."